Oklahoma State comes into Eugene to face off against the 6th-ranked Oregon Ducks. They are 28.5-point favorites according to FanDuel. I've seen some lines as high as 29.5. The over-under sits at 57.5. Saturday, 12:30 p.m. Pacific Time kickoff on CBS. Brad Nessler, Gary Danielson, and the crew have the call. Oregon is 3rd in the country in the F+ ratings. Oklahoma State down at number 56. I think the thing that really stands out to me when I want to dive into this preview is on the defensive side of the football. Now, you rewind back to last week. Montana State, I think we knew going into that game, that was not a team that was going to take a lot of shots down the field. That was not a team that was going to test Oregon's corners, Oregon's safeties. That was not a team that was going to test the secondary at all. I think the reverse is true for Oklahoma State. This is a team that's going to spread you out. This is a team that's going to take shots down the field. Safety Aaron Flowers and Dan Lanning talked about this and how they're prepared for this coming into Saturday's showdown.
I just see us going out there making plays and practice against our offense, which is one of the best in the nation. So I feel like we're just ready to play and ready against everybody. I feel like we're ready to get tested and really young secondary. Everyone's just not sure about us, and we're sure to go out there and play our best. Both going to try to take shots because I feel like that's where the offense is. And I feel like he's good. Just try to take top off. And then I can't really tell from like a small sample size, but that's what their main offense is.
Yeah, this will probably be the team that we've played that takes the most vertical shots down the field, right, to date that we've seen. And probably in my time here, like they're going to push the ball down the field, right? A lot of quick passing game and a lot of shots down the field. And he highlights that. They can line up fast. They're going to try to catch you off guard. If you leave somebody singled covered, they're going to let their wideouts go have an opportunity to go win and, compete down the field for the ball. And he's certainly one of those guys.
We know two things, I think, coming in about Oregon secondary this year. Number one, they're really young. But also, number two, they're really talented, and I think the both of those are going to be certainly on my mind when I watch this. Game, right? A young secondary going up against now a passing offense that's going to throw a lot more out them. How are those young guys? How are the Iffies going to respond? The Brandon Finney's going to respond. Naeem Offords and all of these guys that are in this role, how are they going to respond? And then you kind of look at the safeties over the top. Like safeties we saw maybe a little bit in terms of the corners in that short passing game, those crossers with Taco Dowler and maybe the linebackers and how they responded to that, some of that stuff over the middle last week. Safeties was just nothing. We didn't hear much from him. I mean, Kingston Lopa made a couple of nice hits and tackles, but, Aaron Flowers and Dylan Thieneman, they were pretty silent as far as their names coming out of the mouths of some of the Big Ten Network broadcasters last week. But I'm really curious to see how this secondary really gels together, how honest they are in their assignments, how well they do preventing some of the deep stuff down the field. Now, I said in the scouting report, I think that Oklahoma State is maybe with Zane Flores and what he does, I think that they're going to do a little bit more shorter and quicker stuff, which I think plays well into how Oregon wants to play, because I mentioned last week, they're good tacklers and they're sure tacklers. So for Oregon, I think the key is this, limit that deep stuff down the field. And if they want to try to do death by 1,000 cuts, I'd say let them. Because number one, I think Oregon is more talented in their secondary versus Oklahoma State's wide receivers. And number two, I don't think there's going to be a lot of broken tackles in the open field. So I think if you're Oregon, keep Oklahoma State to the inside and make those sure tackles and kind of get them into kind of these third and long situations, which I'll talk about here in just a minute. How about we talk about it right now? Because I think the second thing that stands out to me in this game, Oklahoma State's offensive line is not good. It is bad. Oregon's defensive line is really good. Oregon's defensive line is great. This is a tremendous opportunity for Tony Tuiotti's boys to eat. Not only in the matchup against the Cowboys offensive line, you got a young quarterback back there that is behind a bad offensive line, that is facing a really good defensive line, and is making his first career start inside the zoo of Watson Stadium. Like you make the recipe, you put it into the oven, you pull it out of the oven, and this is not something that looks good right now for the Cowboys. So I think if I'm Tosh Lupoi in this game, I'm creeping extra guys into the box. I'm bringing pressure on Zane early in this game. I am trusting my corners. I am trusting Iffy. I am trusting Brandon. I'm trusting Sione, Theron Johnson, assuming he'd be good to go in this game. I'm trusting that they're going to be able to cover, because what I would love to do, I would love to be able to bring the heat. I would love to be able to bring the house. I would love to be able to rattle this young quarterback. Because if you're able to get multiple hits on him early and early and early, and that can rattle a young guy, especially somebody that hasn't really seen a lot of action out there like one Zane Flores. Now, he redshirted. He's got a medical hardship. So technically it is his third year of college football. But still, I mean, this environment, this type of situation, that's going to be hard for somebody that hasn't been on the field playing and deciphering coverages and, dealing with maybe the noise in road environments really present. So bring the heat, man. Mateo, I think, could have a big game. Maybe Blake Purchase. Maybe this is a game where he really stands out and gets into the backfield a lot. Of Tatum Tuioti, Ashton Porter. Maybe we see some Nasir Wyatt in some of these NASCAR packages as well. So turnovers, I think, could really be on the table in this game because of what I just mentioned, which can set up short fields for your offense. When I look at this thing offensively, now, there aren't a ton of players on the field for Oklahoma State that I'd be like, okay, that's a guy that can really make plays consistently. I think one guy is Wendell Gregory. Talked about him last week, 3 sacks. Talked about him in the scouting report. You need to have your eyes on him every snap. I'm really curious if he's matched up opposite of Isaiah World. Now, we kind of knew a lot of people were really excited about what Isaiah could bring to the table this season. But one thing I think that was maybe a little bit of a criticism, he needed to be stronger. He needed to have a little bit more of an anchor. And I watched him against Montana State, and there were some guys that were kind of pushing him back on a few occasions. So if Gregory is matched up against World, that'll give us a really good gauge to see where Isaiah is matched up against a good power 4 type of pass rusher. So how do you neutralize a guy like Wendell Gregory? How do you prevent him from really getting involved into the game? Obviously, first, hey, offensive tackle, do a good job of preventing him. But I think quick pass game and run game, like that's the secret. I mean, well, it's not really a secret. That's the formula of really trying to neutralize a really good pass rusher. And I think when you look at what Oregon generally wants to do, this is what they want to do. They want to run the ball and they want to feed the studs. They want to get guys into open space and kind of do their thing. Like last week, UT Martin rushed for over 3 yards per carry, had over 100 yards against Okie State. I'm not like, there's not a ton on this defensive line that really strikes fear, I guess. That really, I don't think will be much of a challenge for, especially on the interior for Oregon's offensive line. Like they've got Iman Oates, Demarion Thomas, both are over 315. And might provide a little bit more of a test size-wise than what Montana State was in the interior last week. But I think the Ducks, talent-wise, size-wise, they stack up really well, and they're going to have the advantage, and they're going to be able to run the football throughout this game. And then I talked about the secondary in the scouting report. I think if these guys get space, if Gary Bryant gets space, if DeCorian Moore gets space, if Malik Benson gets space, they're going to be able to shed some time. They proved last week that Gary Bryant on that touchdown run where DeCorian Moore just pancaked that guy, he's got the ability to shed some tackles. So you get them into space, you combine it with a really powerful and a really good run game. You have this great downfield blocking ability from guys like Kenyon Sadiq and DeCorian Moore and some others. I think that could really break a lot of yards after catch. Do I see a lot of deep shots in this game? We'll see. It's not something that really stands out to me. And like I said, Oklahoma's secondary is a little bit unproven. So like Oregon's secondary maybe being tested and having their first real type of quiz, so to speak, and what they're going to do and how they're going to respond, I think the same could be the case to see if Oregon and see how the receivers can separate against a secondary with a lot more experience that's at a little bit of higher level. Last thing, just let Dante cook, man. Just let him do his thing. If this offensive line gives him time, get Dante into a rhythm. Exploit the mismatches, because there are mismatches, in my opinion, all over the field. Kenyon Sadiq, I mean, he's a mismatch. He's a mismatch. The linebackers cannot run with Kenyon Sadiq, but that's kind of like any other team, really. The linebackers are going to be too slow. Corners and safeties might be too small. If offensive line gives Dante, he's going to cook. He's going to cook. We saw it last week of how intelligent he is pre-snap and what he can do to kind of give himself an advantage post-snap. So if there's protection, I think Dante's going to do some great things against this defense, against the secondary all game long. Let me get into my prediction. Folks, I think Oregon covers, and I think they cover comfortably. I said, even before we kicked things off last Saturday in my preseason game-by-game predictions, I said, with one game under their belt, I think that this one's got to be a belt-to-ass type of game, and that's where I've got this one 45-10 in favor of the Ducks. I see them having a lot of early success on offense, getting Oklahoma State into a hole early. They're going to throw the ball a lot to begin with, and I think they're going to throw even more when they get behind by a couple of scores early in this game. I think the pass rush is going to eat. They're going to rattle the young quarterback. They're going to force some turnovers. This one's all Ducks. So I got them covering the 28.5 point spread, but I've got this one actually going under the game total by just a couple of points.